Hi, good morning. Over the past few years, there are some interesting developments that happened in the context of Amazon, which I believe everyone must have noticed, which is the high profile FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, case against Amazon, calling its monopolistic practices. I spent some time early last year researching, going through the pretty extensive report. It's a pretty heavy report with a lot of information, with a lot of analysis that was done. And interestingly enough, there were a lot of interesting findings, if you will, about Amazon's practices and how they actually harm business rather than support the sellers that Amazon claims it's supporting. I want to spend some time going through that just to kind of rehash some of the information that I gathered and some findings that I believe are interesting in terms of what could be the potential outcomes or some of the changes that Amazon is possibly doing. And in fact, it has already done it in the course of the past 2 years. I wrote a couple of articles on my Substack account for Innovation Overdrive. So let's just dive in and I'll try to highlight some of this information so that you could find something interesting from there. One of the reasons why I wrote this is also because when I spoke about the FTC case with a lot of my friends, many of them didn't necessarily read through the entirety of the FTC report. It's fundamentally, as I said, a very extensive, thoroughly vetted report. Could be biased, I don't know. There could be some political undertones to it. But keeping that aside, I also thought my friends probably didn't have enough time to really go through that report and read through some of the interesting findings that the FTC came up with. And I just thought, why not write, a quick Substack article on that so that people can get some more knowledge about it. So this is the one. It's about why the FTC case against Amazon is worrisome. So let's just dive in right away. Now, this was written in March 14th of 2024, so it's been pretty much more than a year since things have unfolded. But as you may eventually get to know, things are progressing slow on this case, so we will just cover that towards the end. So, quick context, obviously, the FTC had initiated a landmark lawsuit against Amazon, and basically it challenges fundamentally all the tall claims that Amazon had made over several decades about its operational model, fundamentally accusing it of inflating prices, diminishing the quality of products, more so from a, I would say, an arm twisting mechanism with the sellers rather than actually asking for quality to be compromised. And, also looking at how to initiate innovation in the name of seller progress and seller performance that basically has turned out to be not much of a good thing for sellers after all. So Amazon's storied flywheel model is basically one of the biggest, I would say, operating model under attack, where the FTC has alleged that Amazon employees employed anti-competitive tactics in two key markets. One is the online superstore, which is obviously Amazon.com across the world, and the online marketplace services purchased by sellers. I'm sorry, the marketplace services is the one that's the bigger part where the sellers are involved, and obviously Amazon has been a little bit under the radar in some of these areas for so long that the FTC case actually opened up a can of worms. Primarily, it's about anti-discounting measures to prevent sellers from offering lower prices, elsewhere. So in the competitors like say on Walmart or like eBay and so on, the focus obviously is in on the U.S. market, but the U.S. market primarily is the biggest share of Amazon's revenue. So that significantly impacts its entire worldwide operations also. So getting into some of the details, basically, here are a few snippets from the report that I let the readers be the judge of. Basically, it had some interesting takes on Amazon, which kind of really put Amazon on an uneasy pedestal of being a monopolist, exploiting its monopolies in ways that harm its customers. So the way FTC spun it around has been that Amazon has put uncompetitive and unrealistic pressure on its sellers in the name of providing value to customers, but FTC sold this entire case on the idea that, to the contrary, the customers are the ones who have been severely, I would say, or FTC says, has been exploited or denied the opportunity at having a fair share of the market to determine what they would purchase from where and so on. So some of them are hard to digest because if you're an Amazon associate or employee, you would probably look at it as like, oh, well, how else can one do business, right? So in an environment where we are obviously talking about being competitive and being on our toes and actually kind of getting to have the best of the best, how else can you do that? So Amazon recognizes that sellers find it has become more difficult over time to be profitable on Amazon due to Amazon's increasing fees and costs. This is part of the challenge here, where for the sellers to be surviving and having a good, reasonable stay in the market, obviously they have to be working with some of the cost structures and some of the seller structures, operating structures that Amazon has mandated. Again, you could call it as a fair business practice or just the way it is, take it or leave it and go on to another marketplace. But of course, I think the way the FTC put the spin around this is that sellers do not have a choice and they are forced to stay in Amazon, given the monopoly it has, and at the same time it doesn't have much of an operating leverage to take their own path. This is important because what will be later on covered in another video that I want to make is about the concept of multi-channel fulfillment services, which Amazon and then also a little later even Walmart started introducing, which seems like a direct response to this FTC case, just kind of easing out and trying to come out of all these accusations. But we'll cover that later. I just want to focus more on the FTC case here. Amazon executives internally acknowledge that this kind of competitive push for paying for advertisements and trying to be competitive in the storefront basically creates harm to customers. It's making it almost impossible for organic content to win over barely relevant sponsored content. The emphasis here is on the pay-to-play advertisements that Amazon apparently had spiked over the past several years. I think they have toned it down after the FTC case, but nevertheless, that has been one of the big focuses here. And I would let you read through my Substack report to go through some of these details. Obviously, one of the things that Amazon is accused of doing is anti-discounting tactics to prevent rivals from growing by offering lower prices as a competitive offer. And it uses coercive tactics involving its order fulfillment service to prevent rivals from gaining the scale they need to meaningfully compete. So the intent here is obviously that Amazon is trying to take the full-on advantage of its flywheel and ensure that that becomes almost like a leverage point that tends to not allow other competitors to be effective at matching up to what Amazon could do. The only retailer who's actually trying it hard and possibly coming to a decent ground in terms of pushing or challenging Amazon has been Walmart. But if you look at the numbers, Amazon's fairly huge in terms of its volume and scale compared to what Walmart has been able to accomplish, especially in its e-commerce marketplace play. But nevertheless, very competitive and very much getting there, in fact. So one of the things that the FTC has accused Amazon of doing is basically the idea that Amazon knocks sellers out of all the important buy box, uh, which is one of the biggest things which a shopper actually views to add an item to cart. And buy box basically is like a lifeline to sellers. If they win in the buy box, they win the customer, and obviously they get the sale compared to their other competitors who are possibly offering the same product and possibly for reasonably same prices or the same range of price points that attract the customers. So 98% of Amazon sales are made to the buy box, and Amazon internally recognizes that eliminating a seller from the buy box causes that seller's sales to tank. And this is a known fact. It's obviously critical to their to the seller's survival, and a lot of the fight for how sellers play the Amazon game is to make sure that they are sitting in the buy box. The way Amazon puts the flywheel into effect as an offering to customers basically lets the customers get tied into the idea of what Amazon is for them. It's a very hard spin to it. I sometimes wonder if they haven't done that, then what else could they have done to stay competitive or stay at the top, right? So Amazon obviously is a business. It's responsible to its shareholders. It needs to make money. I would give a little bit of a leeway here, a little bit of a rope here for Amazon. But having said that, it's Amazon's way of doing business. If somebody at a regulatory level looks at it and says Amazon isn't necessarily playing it fair, then I think the intent of trying to create a business that is so interlinked through all these flywheel components, which by themselves could be like standalone businesses, is basically something to think over. So for sellers, Amazon India does something interesting, which is basically a rethinking of the fulfillment by Amazon model. Amazon India started this off quite early, I would say. I think the US market just kind of moved into this concept a little later, which is the easy ship model, which is offering customers the prime delivery option without forcing sellers to sign up for FBA storage and handling at a prime warehouse. Fundamentally, the idea is that sellers can choose to either sign up for Amazon Prime or basically just leverage Amazon as a delivery partner for their standalone stores, which they may create on a Shopify or somewhere else. So, literally giving the sellers the opportunity to run their own storefront, and then for the delivery aspects, kind of getting the product to the customer. Amazon India just provides this easy ship opportunity. The Prime Light service is another thing that Amazon has experimented in India. which kind of then takes, I believe, the learnings from the FTC. If I just had to look at what Amazon executives were trying to do, take the learnings from the FTC accusations and then kind of tone down the demands of the Prime membership so that the Prime Lite service, although it offers limited capabilities, makes it more of a configurable membership package. So thereby giving back more control to the customer, and of course increasing the opportunity for customers to sign up more for Prime. So probably a two-way road here. Amazon executives or even employees for that matter have made statements directly to FTC, I guess part of a mandated need for them to be open to what the FTC is asking for. But have they talked a lot about what's going on there to the detriment of what Amazon could potentially be effectively doing? So something like this: Amazon employees followed Mr. Bezos' instructions. Amazon's experiments show that even when its advertisement defect rates increase by a percentage, advertising revenues still increase. So basically, more the ads, irrespective of the relevance and utility to the customers and value to the sellers, just basically bombarding with advertisements added more money, direct profits to Amazon's kitty. So ad auctions was basically one of the big things that employees themselves recognized as, well, it's something of a bit of a stretch, right? Now, another one is sellers who purchase advertising have to pay per click for preferred search and detailed page placement, right? And there's obviously a fixed commission that Amazon also charges, and the pay-to-play advertisements, which I think has come under the big attack lawsuit, basically is called out as increasing the cost that sellers must bear to reach shoppers. And this is where the consumer angle comes in, where the extra cost obviously is likely to be passed down to the customer and result in higher prices for customers. And this is something I would fundamentally agree with. I have seen sellers struggle with even staying in the e-commerce business in the first place, selling whatever products they are selling. And then these pressures to stay in the game, the Amazon game, obviously means that the sellers just can't go below cost to sell their products. So they just need to jack up the prices to make sure that they are competitive and staying relevant. And higher prices, yes, I do agree with that. So Amazon's claim of actually doing all these things to offer lower prices and better opportunities for customers actually is is on a very shaky ground. And I think Amazon realized it, and they pretty much probably know it already or knew it, and hence they have been trying to make subtle changes over the past few years to make sure they are compensating for all these practices that they had over the past several years, which actually made them successful in the first place, making a ton of money for the founders and all their executives who have been holding Amazon stocks. Amazon further degrades the quality of its search results by burying organic content under recommendation widgets, such as the expert recommendation widget, which display Amazon's private label products over other products sold on Amazon. So taking its own products, and this is age-old accusation against Amazon, basically promoting its own products, studying sellers and their products to identify what private labels Amazon can introduce on its own that are already looking profitable with some sellers, making money because the data is all there. And then obviously introducing those products at much more competitive prices, largely sourced from China, almost probably from the same sellers, if you will, and then basically killing the sellers' business in a way, especially the top sellers. So literally kind of, keeping the keeping the pot hot, right, and boiling. No seller can grow bigger beyond a certain extent, and if so, it's Amazon's private label that takes over and kind of disrupts that seller's market opportunity. Amazon takes nearly one out of every $2 of sales from sellers who use its fulfillment services, many of whom are small businesses with already thin margins. So I kind of covered that a bit earlier. Low margin sellers remain on Amazon even as Amazon takes an ever greater cut of the revenues, uh, just because there's no other way to survive in this monopolistic market. If you buy that logic by now. This, I think reading the FTC report just gets you to understand the idea of how what you think in your own enthusiasm as things that you're doing to grow your business could actually be a challenge, a red herring, if you will, in terms of what you are compromising in terms of business practices, ethics, or fairness in terms of how you are working with your entire value chain. So here's something I just found interesting to kind of get to the final part of this video. The lawsuit filed in the US District Court not only seeks to halt Amazon's alleged anti competitive behavior, but it contemplates structural relief to restore competition. This could mean significant changes for Amazon, potentially altering its business structure or operations. In my analysis, this is already happening. Ever since the new CEO has taken over, the changes that have been happening are big yet subtle. Uh, you would see a lot of new shifts happening. The emphasis on even employee productivity, including some layoffs, and then trying, Andy Jassy basically trying to kind of reherd the cattle and get them oriented towards getting their act right, and becoming more nimble and more effective in what they are doing also are signs of what's happening. This structural relief, I bet, will lead to the breakup of Amazon, or more so, the breakup of Amazon into a different operating model. If I kind of read between the lines in terms of what Amazon has been trying to do. And we'll talk more about it even in future videos. A couple of things in the Amazon empire that I noticed that's been happening. Overemphasis on AWS, AI, and Gen AI by the current global CEO, with a lot of growth and investments directed towards it. Now, of course, you can say, well, everyone's on the AI bandwagon, so what's the big deal? Well, the AI emphasis could actually lead to Amazon no longer looking like a retailer in the future, or a marketplace storefront in the future. It could fundamentally become a technology services company, almost in the lines of Shopify. And AWS could actually maybe spun off, or could be spun off as its own separate business, which could actually be a very strong pressure tactic from the FTC, given that AWS is one of the biggest profit pools for Amazon. And I don't know. I haven't really realized or understood their inner workings from a finance standpoint. But I don't know if AWS really funds their other business lines directly or indirectly. But that's a big thing. Amazon as a service, which is basically, I think, the shift that I'm talking about, where Amazon is not much of an online marketplace storefront. It's no longer going to source products. It's no longer going to sell products directly. but it's going to offer the plethora of features and functionalities that it already has, be it on the selling front, the customer facing front, or the extensive logistics operations and capabilities it has built. The latter being the big deal, and that's where I see Amazon going full on, full blast, creating a lot of value add services for both sellers and maybe even directly for customers. So that obviously is going to be interesting. They will change or significantly change their operating model. So they already have tested this with Shopify, and that's something worth studying. I think Shopify has a more subtle way of trying to let sellers do whatever they want, and then using the subscription model to just make a wholesale money on the actual deal that they're offering to sellers. It comes with its own challenges, but Shopify has done it effectively well, and I think Amazon could possibly be looking at something similar for their growth or survival. It's interesting to note that the the case is not merely a legal battle. It's actually a pivotal moment, if you would think in those lines, that could redefine the boundaries of digital commerce, antitrust law, and the role of big tech in our daily lives. So, Amazon is certainly going through some fundamental or significant shifts in order to stay relevant here. I will, in a future video, cover Amazon's shifts in the context of how it's working in the marketplace in general. The fulfillment services being offered as a service is one such thing. It just changes the game, and I believe Amazon not only did it as a way to I would say offer something more to customers or to the sellers, but it also did it as a way to get away from the FTC challenges that are going to be just complicating matters for them, which they have already done. And I'm pretty sure Walmart has been studying this, and some of the copycat changes that Walmart did with its own opening up of the fulfillment services to any seller platform and so on is just basically an indication of times to come, right? So, what's the latest on the FTC case? If you just do a quick Google search, you can see that the large part of the accusations, the trials are going to be happening in October 2026. So you can see how the timelines have fundamentally moved so far out. This probably started in 2023 or so. So yeah, maybe in FTC timelines it's not too much of a delay, but FTC did try to delay the Prime subscription case due to staffing and budget issues, and apparently they then backtracked. So the Doge initiatives, I think, put some pressure on the funding for them, but apparently they are back on track. October 2026, folks. It's a long way out. In the meantime, I think Amazon will do enough things to present their case to the judges who are going to look at it, and Amazon is certainly going to make a strong case for how they have made significant changes to their operating model to make it work for them and play it safe. So I see a lot of interesting things happening over the next 2 years. Amazon is no longer going to be the same old Amazon that we've been used to seeing. I think it's going to go through a major shift, which means that it will continue laying off a lot of employees. There's no other way to do that, and you may see a set of Amazons of different nature, different business models actually spawning from the larger Amazon out there. And I believe that is going to also shift the narratives in terms of if Amazon is going to possibly tone it down or realign their business model, which means the flywheel is not going to spin at that pace and at that capacity and clarity that it has been doing so the past several years or decades. But what's the competition going to do, right? So Walmart is certainly trying to, up its game, but Walmart is also going to be subject to the same amount of scrutiny, so they're not going to make it easy for them. And the sellers obviously are going to possibly be the biggest gainers in this entire exercise, which brings us to another interesting aspect which I covered in one of my articles, which is, or rather my one of my prior videos also, is who are these sellers, right? So if you understand and scrutinize the seller ecosystem for Amazon, Walmart, or any of the top marketplace platforms, you will see that they're all fundamentally from China. They are basically suppliers who are, building products rapidly and basically becoming sellers and then selling directly on these platforms, including their own homegrown platforms like Temu, which I also studied a bit. And it's obvious that China has to do this, or rather, I wouldn't say China has to do this, but Chinese suppliers obviously had to do this because, why waste the cost arbitrage that you could gain in the value chain by directly selling on these US based marketplace platforms? Why just let go of that opportunity? So I'll stop at that and continue in a future video in terms of how Amazon and Walmart, through their changes in their business practices, are trying to play the future of e-commerce, digital commerce, and retail. Until then, thank you very much. Bye-bye.